We all like to think we're in the driver's seat of our own minds, right? But what if I told you that's not entirely true? The fact is, our brains are being hacked all the time. I'm not just talking about social media, I'm talking about our deep evolutionary past, even the temperature of the room you're in right now, and of course, the incredible new tools we're building. So today, let's dive in and unpack the forces that really shape how we think, create, and, well, how we solve problems.
I love this quote from Einstein. He just nails it, doesn't he? He's basically saying we have these two fundamental ways of thinking. You've got logic, which is kind of like your GPS, right? It's reliable, it gets you from A to B, it helps you navigate the world you already know. But then there's imagination. That's not the GPS, that's the rocket ship. It's what lets you tear up the map and go somewhere completely new. So that's the journey we're going on. First, we'll look at the ancient roots of that rocket ship, where our creativity actually comes from. Then we'll see how the world around us can either fuel it up or, leave it stuck on the launch pad. And finally, we'll get into the really futuristic stuff, the new tools that are completely changing the game.
All right, let's rewind way, way back. When you think of imagination, what comes to mind? Probably artists, writers, maybe daydreamers, right? We tend to see it as this nice little extra, a fun side effect of having these big, complex brains. But what the evidence is telling us is something way more profound. Imagination wasn't just a happy accident of evolution. It was the engine. And I mean, look how deep these roots go. We're talking 3.3 million years ago. This is long before our own species, Homo sapiens, even existed. Think about it. To look at a lump of rock and see not just a rock, but a potential tool, a sharp edge for cutting, that's a massive imaginative leap. That's seeing what could be, not just what is. And fire? Our ancestors didn't just find fire. They had to imagine its potential, to see it not as a threat, but as a source of warmth, of safety, of delicious cooked food. That's pure imagination driving survival. Okay, so this brings us right back to those two engines, logic and imagination. Logic is amazing for making things better. Think of the mathematician Aryabhata, using pure logic to nail down the value of pi. Or Henry Ford, using cold, hard logic to perfect the assembly line. That's optimization. But imagination, it's a whole other beast. It doesn't ask, how can we make this path better? It asks, is there a totally different path we haven't even thought of? The Wright brothers weren't trying to build a faster horse. They were looking up at the sky and imagining a world where people could just fly. And here's the real secret sauce. The biggest breakthroughs? They're not logic or imagination. They're logic and imagination working together. A perfect example is India's Mars orbiter mission. The imaginative goal was just wild. Get to Mars on the very first try, and do it for cheaper than the movie Gravity. That's an insane dream. But the way they pulled it off, that was pure, brilliant, step-by-step logic. The perfect marriage of a crazy idea and flawless execution. So, okay, we've established we have this incredible piece of hardware, this brain honed over millions of years. But here's the thing. It's not a closed system. It doesn't work in a vacuum. The world around us, our actual physical environment, is constantly hacking it, messing with its performance in ways you might not even realize. And this is one of those things that sounds almost too simple, but the data is just, whoa. Check this out. Researchers watched factory workers for over a year, and they found this classic U-shaped curve. When the temperature was just right, that Goldilocks zone between 17 and 23 degrees Celsius, everything was great, minimal mistakes. But the second it got too cold or too hot, unsafe behaviors, mistakes, they just shot through the roof. It's a stark reminder that our brains are part of our bodies and they really care about being comfortable.
Yeah, and we're not just talking about feeling a little sleepy or unfocused. The science shows that heat stress directly hits our executive function. That's the CEO of your brain, the part that handles planning, focusing, making those big, tough decisions. And get this, one study found that just being too hot made it take 41% longer to finish a complex planning task. A whole 41%. So yeah, next time you can't seem to get anything done in a hot office, it's probably not just you.
But okay, here's the good news. Just like a bad environment can hurt your thinking, the right environment can seriously boost it. And this is where it gets really cool. Researchers tested people's cognitive skills, then sent them for a walk. Some walked through a busy city, and yeah, they got a tiny little cognitive bump. But the people who walked through a natural setting, like a park, their scores more than doubled. There's something about nature that just seems to hit the reset button on our brains.
Okay, so our environment is kind of a passive hack on our brains, right? It just happens to us. But what about when we start building active tools? Tools designed from the ground up to plug into our thinking and boost it. Well, that's where we are now. And it brings us to, without a doubt, the most powerful cognitive tool humanity has ever invented: AI. So, how can AI actually help us be more creative? Well, it breaks down into three main things. First, it's a pattern finding machine. It can sift through mountains of data and spot connections that a human brain would just completely miss. Second, it's a great starting point. It can generate text or music or summaries that can spark a new idea or get you out of a creative rut. And third, and this may be the biggest one, it's an incredible time saver. It can automate all the boring, repetitive grunt work, which frees up your mental energy for the good stuff, the deep thinking, and the big ideas.
But, and yeah, this is a huge but, AI is not a person. It can't have a life-changing experience. It can't have a random chat with a stranger that sparks a brilliant idea. It doesn't daydream. It doesn't get bored and start doodling, which then turns into a masterpiece. AI is an amazing tool for getting to a destination you've already set, but it struggles with that messy, beautiful human process of just wandering around until you discover a destination you never even knew existed.
And this quote from John Beezer just perfectly sums it up. The future of creativity isn't human versus machine. It's human with machine. The real breakthroughs are going to come from people who know how to be a great pilot, using AI as an incredibly powerful co-pilot. You're still the one in the driver's seat, setting the destination. The AI is just helping you get there faster and more efficiently than ever before. So we've gone from the environment hacking our brain from the outside to us building tools to help us from the outside. But what's next? Well, we're now crossing a pretty major line. We're moving from hacking the mind from the outside in to hacking it directly from the inside out. And this, folks, is where things get really, really interesting and really complicated. One of the first places we're seeing this is with something called cognitive training, or CT for short. Now, this isn't about pills or anything like that. The best way to think about it is like a gym for your brain. You do these very specific, often gamified exercises that are designed to target and strengthen certain mental muscles: your memory, your focus, your planning skills. It's a mental workout. And the results can be pretty stunning. Take a look at this study done with schizophrenia patients. You have the control group who got the usual treatment. Then you had another group who, for just 8 hours total, played a specific memory game on an iPad. That's it. The results were incredible. The gaming group had a 68% drop in memory errors. But here's the really important part. Their ability to manage daily life, their global functioning, went up by 12%. This proves it's not just about getting better at a game. It translates to a real, meaningful improvement in their lives. Okay, so when you see results like that for treating a condition, it inevitably leads to a question. What happens when people who are already healthy want to use these same techniques to get, well, better? And that's exactly what's happening. We're seeing this explosion in a gray market for what people are calling smart drugs. Things like modafinil, which was designed for serious medical conditions, are now being taken by perfectly healthy students and professionals who are just looking for an edge. And if you think this is some small niche thing, think again. In the UK, a single police seizure of these drugs was worth £200,000. That just shows you how huge the demand is. And it forces us to ask some really tough questions, right? Is it fair that some people can buy better focus? Is it even safe? What does our world look like when a better brain is something you can just add to your shopping cart? So here's the bottom line. There's no doubt about it. We are getting incredibly good at hacking the human mind. We're learning to work with our ancient programming, we're building amazing tools to help us think better, and now we're starting to tweak the hardware itself. But as we chase after a perfect memory or flawless focus, you have to wonder, what are we leaving behind? Are the things that make us brilliant also the messy things, the distractions, the daydreams, the mistakes? As we race to upgrade ourselves, the biggest question of all might be, what parts of our humanity are we willing to risk losing?